Namaste, yogis. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from Cache Lake, Ontario, Canada. And I'm here with,
Happy Hannah and happy Coco. We are at the headquarters in Bracebridge, Ontario, Canada, planet Earth, the universe.
yeah, this universe.
This one.
Not even the universe, this universe. There's many, and there's
Yep.
multiverses. Well, let's not go down that path. But yes, we're here, our master knitter. Hey, we've switched colors for those who aren't here with the visual. Normally, I'm always in black and you're always in white. Today, I'm in white and you're in black. We've switched roles.
This is going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, everything is flipped on its head, upside down. That's why we do the headstand. I do headstand in this room every morning, and right here on my yoga mat, and I look over at the books on the bookshelf, and there's just something about going upside down. It just we see things from a different view, and so let this conversation be an opportunity to see with a different view, different perspective.
Let this podcast be a
So
headstand.
with that, yeah, let it be a headstand. Let's do it. Let's set that intention. So reflecting this weekend, Hannah, we got to hang out last Friday night. We had a pizza and a movie night at Hannah's. We were babysitting my nephews, three of the five, playing some sports, eating some pizza, vegan in my case, of course, and watching some movies. And I gotta say, I don't normally shout out movies, and this is not a yogic movie at all. But we watched Happy Gilmore 2, and oh my goodness, I never laughed so hard. I had like Hannah made me a peanut butter smoothie, which was so appreciated. Thank you so much. And I had a mouthful of smoothie, and it just kept making me laugh and laugh and laugh. I had nowhere to spit it out. I was unable to swallow it, and eventually I was able to swallow it. But it felt good, just like kicking backs, having a slice of vegan pizza, watching a silly movie. I didn't probably grow spiritually, but it was very healing because of the laughter. Very healing. And so thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I do think it's in a way, we can twist everything into yoga if we want to. And you know how one of our teachers in India, he often says, Prasanna, he says that joy and happiness is our birthright. And the ease and the laughter, he also brings it a lot into his yoga classes. There's a lot of giggling and laughter and like kind of like innocent, like child's play in his way of practicing yoga. Not to say that it's also very deep and devotional. I find he's a serious yogi practitioner since forever, but he often I remember when I first heard the message that he said, and I'm sure you can tell me where in scripture it comes from, but he said that happiness is your birthright. And I remember how that was a headstand for me because in my culture, I think in a lot of our Western cultures are more based on the idea like the more you can do critical thinking, the smarter you are, and the more kind of critical or cynical you can be, that it says something about your intellectual ability versus the the funniness even in that movie that we watched is based on like simplicity. And I do think that a lot of our spiritual practice is taken too seriously, and there isn't always made space for the idea that happiness is already in us. There's a well of joy inside of us, and there's nothing that is broken. We don't always have to be seeking because all of what we're seeking, the connection we're seeking, is inside of us. And so for me, um, it can be really healing, and it's also really fun to see you laugh because you are so serious. Your tendency is to try to figure everything out in your head a lot, and you're good at that. And
Mm.
anyone who's near you when you laugh can't help but start like laughing out loud. We were all laughing at you while you were laughing at the movie because it was just so funny. You have a very like laughter that rubs off, like, do you know what I mean? And so it's
Contagious.
yeah,
Or
contagious. So I think it was really a beautiful evening in that way, that we actually had pure fun, you know?
yeah. Yeah. I like what you say as well, how, it's in one way we can joke and say we can make yoga fit in anywhere, but this actually aligns very perfectly, right? There's different types of yoga. There's karma yoga, there's jnana yoga, and there's bhakti yoga and other offshoots as well. And you talked about the intellectual, that's jnana yoga. And it says very clearly in Bhagavad Gita and other texts that actually the highest yoga, I'm not saying, this is not my opinion, but this is what the Bhagavad Gita says, that bhakti yoga is the highest yoga. So even higher than jnana, which is very intellectual and very philosophical. And we think, what is bhakti? Well, it's the yoga of love. It's about emotions. It's about dancing. It's about singing. It's about enjoying amazing food that's been prepared with love. So it actually, you're right, and so even though in the Bhagavad Gita it doesn't instruct, thou shalt sit and watch Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore, it doesn't say that exactly, but this idea of laughing, coming together in community as we did with family, and doing something that feels good and engaging our emotions and engaging our senses. And it's true, we talked about this on the other call, the sharing circle before, on the journey home. And actually Sarah and George were sharing about, kind of level of commitment with their practices. And in one sense, it's true, sincere practitioners of the path will bring some discipline, with regards to their practices. But at the same time, there's very much this element of, bhakti is about engaging your emotions, your senses, singing, dancing, playing, laughing, having fun, enjoying amazing food, enjoying company. So it's yeah, this is yoga. So this is, we have to write a book and make this one of the 12 steps. Watching Adam Sandler at his best. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, if you're into that, you're gonna love it. If you're not into it, then you're gonna think it's silly. But it was a good laugh.
Yeah. I think laughter is healing. It's important too, right?
Yeah, it's very important. And this is the thing, right? Finding, there was Gita who's still listening in here, and she was talking about the importance of really being true to yourself and doing the things that feel right, not doing something because we quote unquote should do it or it's the right thing to do, but really doing what's natural and honoring yourself with regards to lifestyle and practices and teachings. And I think that that's, we're all finding our way, and it doesn't mean because we get up at a certain time or we read a certain book or we chant a certain amount of mantras, it doesn't make us more advanced necessarily. A person who does all those things might be more advanced, but not necessarily. We're all on our own unique journey. And in fact, it's the ones, as Rita pointed out, it's the one like Radhanath Swami, where he can be so aware of just little subtle criticisms or judgments. And so it's not about doing all the right things, but it's about cultivating the quality, the bhakti quality of humility and tolerance and respect to all beings. Which is much more advanced than waking up early and sitting in stillness and chanting, although those are great.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at a screenshot that I took for not long ago, and it said something about like life is not about trying to nail down the perfect morning routine flow, but it's about
Oh,
being,
but that's what my life is all about.
I know, sorry, this is the headstand for you now. Today we're turning everything upside down. So if life is not about creating a perfect morning routine,
Yeah.
according, wish I could find it, can't find it right now, then it suggested that it actually is about being fully available to life as it is and being fully alive in the flows of life. So
Yeah.
that was,
I would say that I would say that's so true and so accurate and probably something I need to hear. And it's almost like we need to find the right teachings at the right point. Because for some people like me, maybe that's what I need to hear, a little bit less rigidity around my structure, and maybe that could be healthy for me. But if somebody is very, I mean, no disrespect by this, but if someone is kind of lazy or doesn't has no ambition, finding a teaching like this might not serve them as much. Just saying, hey, just like be present, just go with the flow. Some people could benefit from a little bit more discipline and structure. I'm not here pointing fingers saying this way or that way, but it's kind of like, but I think that's very true in the statement that you just read.
yeah, it's also like we like the teachings that already
Yeah.
like undermine or fortify what we like to think, our what we're
And
good at,
so
what our
interesting.
goodness is, right? But I do
Exactly.
think that
So
like
you screenshot that one because it aligns with your tendency. And
mhm,
I'd be the one that screenshots the one that says discipline equals freedom. And I'm
yeah,
like, oh yeah, that's the one. Screenshot, and they're both true, but
yeah.
it's true. We kind of gravitate to the one that aligns with our nature.
Yeah, like like we can go to any scripture, any tradition, and only hear the things that we want to hear in it.
Yeah.
So it's great that you were able to say like that's probably what I need to hear, right? The
Yeah.
thing about the morning routine versus flow. And also I think that um it's true for everyone. Like I don't know anyone who has no control over their lives. Like if they have that, then they might have a mental health issue and they would need other than screenshots to help them, you know. But
Yeah.
what I hear in it is also the what we most of us, most people in the Western world where we are over high achievers who are trying to control life and create projects, and it's our way to be creative is to try to outsmart life, and sometimes it comes at a high cost. And that's what I hear in it, like how able are we to actually be fully alive with what is, you know there's a lot of
Yeah.
controlling that we're really wanting to do in our Western world. I find that we then call, our practice or our routines or our preferences or our personalities. But underneath that, sometimes I wonder what is the urge to, if we do trust in God, right? If we do trust scripture, if we do trust, the spiritual teachings that we're curious about, then what's this need to control everything? And I know that's not the only purpose of the routines and practices that we're given. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, I assume even in bhakti, especially in bhakti, it's about cultivating a personal relationship with the transcendent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's right. I mean, the practices for me, very very nourishing. Like for me, waking up early and doing all that, like that's not like a it's such a gift. We were talking about it on the last sharing circle, and I've got family visiting from British Columbia, and they were like scratching their head. They've all waken up at 10 a.m. They're on the BC time zone, and I'm And I'm waking up at 4 a.m. and they don't fully understand that. Okay, I was just listening. I got because it stopped talking downstairs. I just want to make sure they weren't listening to everything I was saying. um, but they don't. Yeah, they don't understand, right? And they think I'm a bit crazy or a bit strange. But I don't do it because I should do it. I do it. It really is nourishing. It's so enjoyable having that quiet time in the morning and heading out for the walk, and it's still dark, and sitting down by the lake. Fog as mist is over the lake as the sun's coming up, and it's priceless. Versus I know when I stay up late, if I stay up till 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., if I'm up at that time of day, I'm usually like watching Netflix or eating a bit of junk food or something like that. And I'm not saying that's terrible, but I make better choices in the mornings than the evenings. So that's we find that balance.
But
But
it
I wanted
sounds, sorry to interrupt, but it sounds like through your practices, you are fully alive. You are really present to the beauty. That's why what I'm hearing in your description right now is that when you do those things, you feel alive and you see what is in this moment and you appreciate it and you breathe it in. And it's not completing a to-do list. And if you are up till midnight, then all of those moments, you wouldn't be able to tap into them in that same way. You wouldn't be as fully alive then, because then you would have like the burden of sluggishness or maybe negative, like thinking like, oh shit, I went to bed late. And then we're trying to like kind of autocorrect all day and like remedy or pick our energy back up. So it sounds like
Yeah.
through your practices, you are engaging in a meaningful way with the present moment.
It's important to do that with everything. I mean, in fact, I'm just gonna pull up real quick here because I work out with a guy named Billy Beck, and he's my trainer. And just today, like before I do the training, he always has some like mindset work. And so the sentences today before I started the workout, the focus of today's training session is joyful presence. This means stay 100% focused on the present moment and enjoy. This is one of the most powerful skills that a human can develop. This is a source of energy that most never master. When you embody joyful presence, you're in the state of flow. Be aware of your thoughts and stay focused on the present moment. If your mind wanders, bring it back. And just like, these kind of sentences before I do the warm up, before I do the high intensity workout, before I do the cool down stretches, like, a few sentences like this. So it's not, we can bring this level of presence and joy and gratitude to whether we're working out, whether we're doing our yoga practice, whether we're babysitting the kids, whether we're playing a sport, whether we're chanting our mantra, right? This is the idea of, taking yoga off the mat. And this is, even though this wasn't Sanskrit words here, we can insert Sanskrit if that's more empowering. But this idea of this state of flow and joyful presence, it's a gift.
Yeah, I love that. That is trainer who wants to not just train your body, but also your mind. Sounds
Yeah,
like,
in fact, any of the body transformation is just a byproduct.
yeah.
It's not about transforming your body at all. It's about transforming your mindset. It's like when your body will follow. When your mind makes the decision and gets congruent and gets an integrity, the body follows, and that's just like a little side benefit, a little cherry on top. But the
Mm.
foundation is our mindset, where we put our focus. Um, but I was thinking of something, Hannah, you said that we hear what we want to, right? And that's true, right? You hear you gravitate to the Instagram posts that resonate with you, and I, gravitate to the teachings that resonate with me. Am I coming in okay, or is it like cutting out?
It's a little like we can hear every sentence and every word,
It's just delayed.
sometimes, but
Okay,
you can keep talking.
I'll keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but this idea of hearing what we want. And I'm not here to make an opinion because we established our friend Rita on the previous call reminded us the importance of like not having any subtle criticism or judgment towards others, but I just share this as a fact or as an example. And for those who know that I'm vegan, probably know that I am, a little bit biased to one side. But for example, the teaching of the Bible that says, "Thou shalt not kill." Now, when yogis or those who study the Bhagavad Gita, and we have a Gita on the call with us today, those who study that text, they would understand that beautiful teaching from Jesus to apply to all living beings, humans, animals, etc. And many Christians and would interpret that teaching to mean to apply to animals, or sorry, to apply to humans, but not to animals. And I'm not here to take sides, although I'm vegan, but I'm not here to take sides. But it's just like different people can interpret it, the way that supports their lifestyle, their decisions. And I mean, that's like a big example that could be debatable, and we're here to create inclusivity and welcoming. So we're not here to debate that position. But that's, there's just little subtle ways like that, right, Hanna, in different traditions and different teachings that we can we hear what we want and understand things the way that aligns with us.
Yeah.
Yep, for you.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was it. Yeah, so response.
Response to that. I don't know. I feel like we discuss people's personal choices a little bit too much. And I don't know what the purpose is. Like we will again interpret things differently. And if there was one right way of doing things, then everybody would be doing it. And there's billions of people living lifestyles that are different. And I don't know that we need to justify why some people think this way versus that way.
No, I know that's the kind of the whole point. I'm not trying to take a position, but just more this idea. The point being that people will hear the things they want to hear and interpret things that they want to interpret it. That's the point.
Yeah.
But and just funny on that idea. My parents we got our company here visiting from British Columbia, and last night as I went to bed in my PJs, 8 p.m., boom, asleep. They're heading out on the deck to cook up burgers and hot dogs. And my mom did what I did back in the day. She prepared her burger. She had like all the toppings, the ketchup, the mustard, the relish, the pickles, the tomatoes, the onions, the lettuce, just like loaded this burger with all the goodies and just like consumed it and just like, wow, amazing. And then, after they finished their dinner, she went up and she's like, who didn't eat their burger? And everybody's like, we did. And so my mom, she did what I did back in the day by accident. She just ate the whole thing, but without putting the patty in.
Ah,
She was telling me she was laughing so hard because I did the same thing as a kid. And so then we were joking that, maybe it's a subconscious, because she does eat vegan a lot with me. But it's, anyway, that's just a silly little story. But again, we hear things that resonate. And coming back to Hyundai, you heard that teacher in India tell us that bliss, ananda, is our birthright. And that's like this is the perspective that this particular yogi lives his life. And when you meet him, you get a sense like he lives that. He exudes that. And so it does make a difference what we believe, what we focus on, what we read, what we engage in, it really influences how we show up in the world.
Yeah, it's like we might not have that many role models in our lives that we take seriously that would say such a thing, that joyfulness is you at your core, and is who you are. Where I find, like, I remember thinking when I first heard that, like, I thought the opposite is true. Like in Finland, we're known to be like more introverted and more like serious. And of course, there's lots of Finns who aren't, but it was so radically different to what like the narrative I found was in my world at the time. And even now, I feel like when I work with people, I often think, like, why is it that we don't even feel safe to be in states of contentment for no reason? Because that's the other piece of this teaching that this teacher always says. That means prasanna is joyfulness without any particular reason. So you don't have to have won the lottery or have a good morning flow or morning routine or any reason to be happy, just purely sparkly happy. Whereas we kind of think that it's maybe not safe because maybe the other shoe will drop, you know? And we're more focused on, and it's not to bypass that the world is a complicated and complex place. And in the same time, though, our inner life can be, rooted in the knowing that this is not everything that I am. My responsibilities is not everything that I am. There's more to my soul and to my being here in the daily, right?
Yeah, that's it. And recognize, just knowing that not everyone is going to get it, right? You coming from the culture in Finland, for example, when you heard this teaching in India about bliss being your birthright, it just kind of like rattles you, it shakes you. It's like, well, it's not even my experience, but there's some truth in it. And I'm seeing that it's true for you, and I'm seeing it can be true, but it hasn't been your experience. And so sometimes we will make decisions, we will make lifestyle choices or practices or that people closest to us don't fully understand. And I was reading a book right now from this guy Dan Martell, and he was saying one of the principles of, like, one of the principles he's teaching is to be misunderstood. He says the people closest to you mean well, but they don't get it. They might not get you. They've seen you fail. They remember your worst moments. So when you start talking about your next big move or your practices or your lifestyle change, they can't separate the old you from the new one. They don't understand. And that's okay. So this idea, so he's kind of talking about, these are the kind of principles or qualities that people cultivate who go on to really do big things, big, the Mandelas, Nelson Mandelas, the Mother Teresa's, etc. Right? They're doing things at an early stage that people don't understand, and they question, but it's only in hindsight after they've committed themselves that we really see the impact. And that's, partially what we do as yogis, right? Like, we can't just sit, roll out your yoga mat, do one hero's journey flow, and then, like, boom, got it, like, got all the energy, got the vitality, got the strength, got the flexibility, right? It's not that quick and easy. And it's like showing up consistently, day in, day out. And that goes for what we focus on as well. And our thoughts and our mindset obviously impacts our mental health.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, like, we are quick to judge ourselves too based on the past self, right? And of course we are, conditioned by our past, but we do have a lot of choice. Like that's what we might sometimes forget. Like even in the midst of our responsibilities and our, work and raising kids and building our businesses, even in the midst of that, there is a choice, right? And that's why I, again, sorry to toot our own horn always, but like the 200 hour for me really is a personal development program. So you don't have to want to become a yoga teacher per se or be in love with yoga poses to benefit from it. It's like a moment in time where you get to revisit who you are becoming, because we're constantly also evolving, you know?
Mhm.
So we are at
It's so
our,
important.
yeah,
We
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say we talked about that on the last call. Renee was sharing the important her. She's been taking time to reflect, like kind of doing journaling and reflection, and so she can see things through a new lens now, and have a deeper understanding and a different meaning from taking the time to reflect on past experiences. And so that's essentially what you're saying, the 200-hour hero's journey. Like you get to just get really honest with yourself and really get to check, evaluate your integrity and evaluate, kind of who you are and what you believe in, and look deep within, and just having that time to be in that container, to dedicate to yourself, to get really honest. It's much more than just becoming a yoga teacher. And as you say, many people don't do it to become a yoga teacher, but rather for the transformative element.
Yeah, and I think like with a lot of people that I work with, and I know I went through this myself too, like in my empty nesting year, my therapist asked me, like, what do you like? What do you want to do? Because all my life had been until that point about raising kids and providing a home for us and making the right choices and kind of providing a stable container for them. And when that job kind of was done, of course, life then invites me to say, okay, now look at you. Now it's your time. Now you do what you want. And I remember how shocked I was when I noticed that I didn't know what I wanted. And I was thinking, like, what? I thought like I'm this high functioning individual who's doing a lot of self inquiry. I know who I am. I know what I want, but I didn't. I had to discover that. And I see that with a lot of my people that I work with, that when you ask them what they like or what they want, they don't know.
Mm.
And it's on an intimate level, like what is it that I want just for myself without having to cater to anyone else, or you know as us as a couple or us as a family, like just between you and you.
Mm.
It's often a very difficult question to answer. What do I like? What do I want for myself for my next chapter in my life? Because we're constantly navigating new chapters too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating how tricky that can be in terms of like knowing oneself. It's
Yeah.
not so automatic.
Yeah, that's really subtle, because it's not enough just to have the freedom of choice. Because in when I first hear you talk about that, I think, oh, like because I have had some self-centeredness and kind of doing what I want. And so in one sense, immediate response was like, oh, I know what I want, and when I want it, I go get it. But then if upon deeper reflection, I can look at earlier stages in life where I didn't really know what I want or who I was. Rather, I was influenced by other teachers or mentors, or I was trying to do what I quote unquote should do. And so that is really powerful, deep reflection, to just like quiet the noise and really think, yeah, what is it? What is true for me? What is this? How do I want to commit my life? How do I want to spend my life? How do I want to serve? How do I
Mm.
want to nourish?
And it can
How
be
do
a
I want to
process.
practice? Like just
Yeah. to discover that, to know, to find the answers to that can be a discovery process. And that's why a lot of us, I think, come to spirituality as well, because we're looking for meaning, for a deeper purpose, right?
Yeah. But what about for those of us, we were talking about this with Sarah just before on the other call. What about for those of us who are kind of like me as well, who are like all in or all out? And it's kind of like, find the best path, find the best practice, find the best lifestyle, the best whatever, and just go all in doing the best or the right thing. That's some of us, that's our nature. But I know what you're saying, and I know what we kind of know inherently inside is it does take time, and it can take time, and it should take time to really to let it reveal itself, because it has to be an internal discovery, right? Even it can't it we can be inspired by mentors and books and texts and teachings, and those will very much influence us and impact the path that we walk, but the discovery has to come from within.
Yeah. And look how long it took you to find where you are now. You've been doing yoga for so many years, right? And you've done lots of um, work with Tony and all kinds of coaches, and you've been really immersed, right? Deeply in different types of practices. And it was only at Harvard kind of where you felt like you wanted to make um like a more serious kind of spiritual commitment or practice,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, which is ironic because Harvard traditionally is known, it's very multi-religious and very interreligious and secular, and there's actually a book that's written titled "How I Lost God at Harvard Divinity School." So actually, many people go there and kind of lose their path. But there was something about just right time, right stage of life. A little bit older than most of the other students, and just kind of being ripe and being ready. And I feel like as I think about writing a book and capturing my story and taking the time to reflect on life and seeing it through a lens of like a divine, seeing the grace of the divine in all the experiences. Um, uh, I forget what I was going to say about it, but yeah, this process. Well, one of the things I was going to say that I look forward to in the process of writing is I want to go back and meet with many people from my past, including past friends from the university days, from the party days, my first ex-wife Mel, my neighbors, here on the lake, all these people who are part of those early years. One, to hear some stories, to hear about what life was like, because I just don't remember most of it because I was very intoxicated. And two, it'll be serve a secondary purpose where I can go and apologize and ask for forgiveness for any behavior from the past. But this, just really taking this time to reflect and to understand and to, to go to relive the journey and find deep meaning in it.
Yeah. Also, one thing you started saying, maybe this will help you remember, you said it was ironic that at Harvard you felt the pull to go deeper into your spiritual practice,
Yes.
because some people
Yes, that's
go
true.
there and lose their beliefs or maybe readjust them.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's gonna
Yeah.
be
Or lose hap lose happens also. Yes, thank you for that reminder. So where I was heading was I feel that as I write my book, and this is early days, I'm just capturing bullet point. I will be around identity, and finding my identity, to cultivate, discovering it, and there's still, I feel like in a sense, I know who I am and the path that I'm on, but I feel like it's just in these final stages of like finding deep meaning, of seeing like, okay, now I see exact purpose of this phase of life and this phase of life, that teacher. And so there's still just a little bit of crystallization of making it all come together. And of course the teachings of the yogic tradition of understanding our true identity as an eternal, pure spirit soul. You know, anyways, I feel like that's going to become a theme and a focus.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting
Yeah, it is.
to revisit.
Just taking the time.
Yeah. And even to visit the people that were, in your life at the time, because that's going to be kind of, because it sounds like it's going to keep it a little bit more real. Because if you're going to rewrite the story from the divine lens, it feels like that can be, a little bit, one-sided. So it's fun that you want to involve the actual
Yeah,
memories of what happened, how other people might have,
yeah.
how they might express it themselves.
How they, yeah, how they saw it. I mean, it was Radhanath Swami who's the one who suggested like relive all of the past experiences, through the lens of seeing, God's grace and, supporting finding meaning in each of them. So I think there's value in that, but I think that just because of my nature of the state I was in, and I just don't remember so much. It will be good to have some of these memories, and it's part of like the 12-step program, which I didn't myself do. I found my own path to sobriety, but one of the steps of the 12-step program is around going back to all the people from your past and apologizing and asking for forgiveness and just kind of healing, just so we're not carrying um, even though if they've forgotten it, they've forgotten my name and who I am. Um, but just this, because we carry some of that, you
Yeah.
know. And so I don't know. It's kind of a cool space to be in to think about. Um, but then honestly, I'm thinking about I mean, my nature is just looking forward,
Yeah.
right? Like not looking. My nature is not looking back and reflecting and reminiscing or worrying about the past, but it's more about the future. So at the same time, I want to stay absorbed in the teachings and the practices and the books that are helping me grow and move forward. But I think there can also be some value in this, the deep reflection of the past.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah.
going to be a good exercise in balance for you.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, because the reality is like, this idea of of aging. The family who is visiting here from British Columbia, they've been a few times, but I haven't seen them since the 1990s. That's a long time.
Yeah.
I was a teenager. I've seen their kids, 10 years ago out in Vancouver, but I just haven't crossed paths with the parents, since the 90s. And it's like we've all aged by about 30 years. And just yesterday, I for those who are on video, I'm putting my glasses on, right? Went and had an eye exam yesterday in Hundastown. Just noticing, and again, as I discovered from the optometrist, like just my eyes, I guess it happens in your 40s. Eyes just need a little bit of extra magnification for reading, like just a little bit of adjustment. And it's just this journey, right? We're aging, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a gift, as you often talk about, Hanna, because not everybody has the privilege of aging and growing old. But this is what the yogic teachings are teaching us. They're telling us we're physically born. The soul is never born. The soul is eternal. But in this life as we know it, right? We're born, we grow old, we sometimes get sick, and we always die. The body departs. And so then if we can live our life through this container between the being born and death, and then the yogis ask these important questions. What is the dharma? What is the purpose? What is the duty of someone in this world? And in particular, what's the duty, the dharma of someone who's about to die? Because guess what? That's all of us. Whether it's 50 years from or 5 years from now or 5 days from now, we have no idea. And so if there is, if the yogic teachings have some wisdom about what we should focus on and what we should absorb ourselves in and how we should practice in preparation for death, and that's very important from the yogic perspective. Well, given that we don't know when we're going to die, let's start practicing that now, right? Let's start cultivating that, immersing ourselves, reading those books, doing those practices now. And then, Radhanath Swami's teacher, Prabhupada, got asked, one time, well, what if you're all wrong? What if you're actually, none of this chanting and all this, what if it's all wrong? He's like, well, then I just had a really fun life, because his life was chanting and dancing and singing and eating and serving. And so even if we can find, this is the balance, right? We can bring discipline to our practice and consistency, and in doing the practices that the sacred literature is telling us is what's going to prepare us for death. And at the same time, being a tradition that, heck, fun, eat good food and to dance and to sing and to play, that's kind of the ideal. So maybe that's what made it easier for me to surrender, to give myself to this particular path of yoga, because it's like, even if it's all wrong, even if the Muslims, they got it right and all the other paths we got it wrong, then, well, I feel like I'm still a good person, had fun. From a material standpoint, it was still a wicked success. It's kind of a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like contemplating on death, like the Buddha taught that too, but not from a place of like fear, rather kind of like, how it gives our lives, the fact that we die, that we're not eternal, gives urgency and meaning and makes this moment come alive in all of its like possibility of what can be, or what we can make out of our lives in the daily, which is, oftentimes we think about death in a fearful way, but I think we can just kind of know that it is the little bit of the antagonizing power of us being alive, meaning the opposite of not being here would be that we're no longer here. So now we use this moment as meaningfully as we can and as fully as we can, being as alive as we can with what is. Right?
Yeah. That's how I feel like it does. Reading these texts and contemplating these questions influences how I live in the present moment now. Like I literally think about on a daily basis, the idea of my parents or one of my parents passing. I'm sure it's going to be hard. I'm sure I'm going to cry and break down. And at the same time, it's very comforting and very reassuring when early morning reading these texts that reminds me that the soul does not die when the physical body dies. Like just reading this and affirming this and getting it and having my own experience of it. Like when my grandma Mummi in Finland, when she passed away in 2013, when I was over there living in Finland, I had a clear understanding that after her physical body was gone, she was not gone. She was still present. And not that she was like necessarily up in a cloud looking down at me. Maybe that's what I thought at the time, but I just had this feeling that she still existed and she still exists. And so from my own little kind of intuition or experiences, and then the texts explain it. And now, as I anticipate the inevitable of my parents and other loved ones passing, it prepares me. I feel like I'm kind of ready for it. I'm expecting it. I hope it's delayed. But I also know that I believe it all happens in divine timing, according to according to the divine plan. So it's, again, even if it's all wrong, it brings comfort. It brings a level of comfort to navigate the inevitable sad times ahead that are coming for all of us, and it seems to bring meaning.
Yeah, it's a little bit like all of the difficulties that we navigate are always opportunities, you know? So the loss of loved ones is also, even though it's sad and like you say, it's inevitable, we'll have to make some sense of it. We have to navigate it somehow. And also that is the potential for maybe some wisdom awakening in us, or that our love for that person evolves or ripens. I do feel like there is a transformation that comes with us having to face the inevitable.
Yeah. And it's like, so these ideas, these teachings, some of them come from the ancient yogic texts, some of them come from modern day influencers. It's like finding these teachings that resonate, that feel right, that help us cultivate the right qualities, whether that's joy, presence, gratitude. Here's a few others. So today, after all the warm-ups with my trainer, with Billy Beck, it was a cardio day. And so it says, choose any type of continuous movement. Complete 15 to 20 minutes of steady state flow cardio. Focus on joyful presence. Take this time to program your mind and install empowering beliefs. So he shared some examples. So these are some examples that we could think about. First one, life is always happening for me, not to me. Right? Some of us have heard that one before. Another one, everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves me. It may not be obvious now, but there is a greater future benefit. I really like that one. This idea, again, because every day there's some challenge, right? There's some little thing every day. And it's like, if every little thing that happened, if we could be like, this is happening for a reason and a purpose, and it serves me. It might not be obvious right now, but there's a greater future benefit. Well, even if that's not true, just by having that mindset, it becomes true, because that's where our focus goes. That's how we make meaning. We become in a resourceful, beautiful state, and then good future benefits happen. So it's like, it's true because you think it's true. And just one other one that I really liked, these are like incantations or mantras that you could say while you're doing your cardio or whatever. The other one, very simple. Life is easy when I am being me. So simple and such, it's like, but profound. Life is easy when I'm being me. And I think about that, because there's some, I've got a good sense of who I am, but there's some environments where I have to just be a little bit not exactly me, just to fit in or just to adapt. And we can do it, but life is easiest when I'm just being me. And thanks to all of you in this community, I feel like on this podcast, on the satsangs, on the various calls, like here, we can just be ourselves. And yeah, but I don't know, what do you think? Any of those stand out to you, Hannah? This idea of everything having a reason and a purpose that serves, or this idea of being easy to be ourselves?
I think the last one that you mentioned about the ease of being myself brings us back to where we began this podcast, around the the joyfulness, the childlike joy that we, you cultivated when you were watching the movie and had your peanut butter smoothie and had a really good laugh, like a laugh that lasted for the whole movie. And that is easy, right? Because that is at our core, is who we are. We're not that complicated at our core. And if we can allow ourselves to be in that, then it sounds like that last quote that you just read about the ease
Yeah.
of being who we are.
Yeah. I love that. Full circle.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. Let's embrace that. Let's, spend the rest of this day, the rest of this week practicing, I mean, both of those, this idea, whatever happens, whatever challenges lay ahead, believing that everything is happening for a reason and a purpose and it serves us. Might not be obvious right now, but there will be a greater future benefit. And this idea of just being ourselves, being true to ourselves, is the easiest. So nice. Thank you for your time today, Hanna. Thanks for your patience. I hope the audio comes out decent. I know this funny overcast, heavy clouds today has clouded us in a bit, but we're back again. We're back again next week. And until we do, huge shout out love to our dear Amy, Andrea, Cece, Gita, Jim, Karen, Lorna, Sandra, Sarah and George, ST, Sue, Rita, and Dana. We got a Gita and a Rita. Sending love to all of you and wishing you an amazing rest of the day. Namaste.
Namaste.